That's kind of neat to think about. So there's been times where you've been playing a video game, you're like, man, this is powerful. This has got me choked up.
Many times.
So many games.
Gosh, see, that's a new concept.
A lot of games are innately designed to keep you on the screen for as long as possible. Infinite gameplay loops and or long stories. In high school, early college, like I find myself struggling to focus on what matters and do those things.
They also tell emotional stories in spite of the fact that, like, visually the graphics they're not realistic or anything. But there's this moment in that game that is still to this day a incredibly powerful, like, heart-wrenching moment that it doesn't matter even if you've seen it before. Like, when you hit that point in that game, it hits hard.
You know, Super Mario 3 was your first game, and like, you are, again, literally half my age, but you loved that game. And one of the things that Nintendo has always really understood is games are supposed to be fun.
All right, well, welcome to the Seacoast Podcast. Everyone, continuing this Seacoast in the Summer series. And Jack, you walked in and you said you had a good opening joke when you saw my shirt.
I did.
Hit it.
Nope.
Why not?
Doesn't matter. It's not for everyone.
Oh, that was
just for you.
Oh,
it's just
man.
for you. Something you and I can share.
And these guys?
Yeah, they're here too.
Yeah, but it was directed mainly at me, man. I'm kind of touched.
Most of my jokes are directed at you.
I tell you what, I'm going to let you introduce these guys, and not because I'm uncomfortable in doing so, but I just thought...
I'm not going to do your job for you.
Can you please?
No.
Right, well,
I'm drawing the line.
Listen, at the very least, Adam, because you know him way more than I do, because you guys have a working relationship and a friend relationship. I just have a friend relationship. So you can assess his work on air, make people aware of who he is, how long y'all been working together.
We are entering review season, but I don't do Adam's reviews anymore.
How long have you been on staff here?
14? Yeah, 14 years.
14 years. Yep. Dang, man. What's been your main role here? Give people a snapshot of what you do here on staff.
Main thing I do is one of the filmmakers. So if there's a video you see on the weekend, there's a good chance I had at least a hand in it.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes that's shooting it, sometimes it's editing it, sometimes doing both, sometimes it's helping with pre-production, sometimes it's just moving lights as needed. But also I do a lot of live directing on the weekends, and I've kind of jumped in and out of that role over those past 14 years.
Yeah.
Also, somewhat in creative, I'm known as the Seacoast historian, because if there's something where it's like, hey, we need to find this video clip, I think it was in the video in like 2012 or like 1995, there's a good chance I can probably find it.
You find stuff that predates you?
I have.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So Tyler,
awesome.
Tyler Vincent's our video director. He's Adam's supervisor. And so usually if I need something, it's, appropriate to go to Tyler first rather than like bypass him. But if it's anything that I just need to archive footage of, I just go straight to Adam. And I will sometimes say something. I can't remember what I asked you for recently, but it was a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I don't think you can find this. And it took him 5 seconds. Because I didn't think it existed anymore.
To which I followed up with, next time can you give me something hard?
Yeah.
Is there a place that's centralized that we keep stuff that you're just smart enough to remember where it is?
Most of it's on Dropbox. I've also recently gone back and I pulled all of our old VHS tapes, digitized those, and got those in. So actually we just did a mini doc on Seacoast, and they were talking about old back when we were at Patriots Point and old venues. I was like, oh, I got a video clip of that. Yeah. We didn't even know that existed.
And so when Adam says he was digitizing stuff, people don't understand how deep into the 2000s we were putting things on VHS and cassette tape.
Yeah.
We were putting sermons on cassette tape well into the 2000s.
Yeah.
Well into the 2000s.
Y'all listen to this, and I think you would remember this. I think you probably had a hand in it. We had something called, Eric, by the way, welcome to, we'll get to who you are, but say something in the microphone. Say, what's up, everybody?
What's up, everybody?
There you go. But do you remember clip mail?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So when we started the James Island campus, there was this humongous black box that I could carry to the car and bring it back, but it was way more ideal to, hey, you want me to help you with that box sort of thing? Yeah, cool. Let's both walk it out to the car. So it had to be hooked up at the West Campus, which was, as my dad would say, hop, skip, and a jump from my house. And so it would need to be hooked up in order for the sermon file to download, because it took all that time. And so then I'd have to drive to the West Campus, which was no big deal, but it was like picking up this big black box, putting it in the car, and then taking it into the high school. But it's just so crazy that we started that campus in 2008, and that's how hard we had to work for a daggum message.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the number of times I'd have to email, I think you guys and one other campus I won't name, that, hey, could you please hook up your server? I can't give you your video for next weekend.
Yes, and that was the clip mail box.
That was clip mail. I'm so glad that it's gone.
Well, good to have you on here. Is this your first time? You've read some scripts, I want to say, but it's your first time to actually sit and chill. So, man, good having you here, Adam. Excuse me, Eric. Oh, wait, let me go back. If this is an offensive question, then I'm just going to have to say sorry. I want to know your age.
How dare you?
Because of the context of this video game conversation, I'm going to ask their ages too. I'm 47, and you're how old?
Just turned 22. No, 40.
40. 40, okay. All right. Eric, how old are you? We'll just lead with that.
Well, I'm 21.
21?
While y'all were running around doing ministry at Seacoast back in the 2000s, I was sitting there in Kids Coast learning about Jesus and watching all these videos.
Nice. Did you start at the Somerville campus?
I actually started here in Mount Pleasant
Okay.
The first few years, but then my family discovered the Somerville campus, so we started going there when I was in elementary school.
Yeah. So you literally grew up here.
Yeah. very much so.
Dang. And you help manage the facilities around here in Mount Pleasant, right?
Yeah, I've been on the facilities team, so maintenance, housekeeping, for the past year and a half, but I really came to Mount Pleasant when I was 18 to go to college at Seacoast, Southeastern University.
Yeah.
So I'm getting my degree in ministry alongside working here, which has been a privilege.
Sweet. Well, good to have you on here. And your mom has been on the podcast
She
also.
has.
How about that? How about that? All right, Jack.
Yeah.
How old are you, man?
You know, twice as old as Eric, which is really difficult for me to say. Yeah, so I'm 42. Turned 42 this year.
42 years old.
Yeah.
Why don't you refresh everybody's memory as far as what you do here? You are the creative director.
Yeah.
You are also what a lot of people overlook, a pastor here at Seacoast.
Yeah. Well, do they overlook it? Wait, what do you mean a lot of people overlook it?
I say on this podcast. No,
I know
that's
what you mean.
what I
I'm just giving you a hard time.
is we just never bring that up.
No, right. Because, so there are, I'm not the only one, but there are people on staff who are, pastors, but that's not necessarily in their title.
Yeah.
And so that's me. I'm not sure when I became a pastor, but it was, Jack was around, so probably about 10 years ago. And, but yeah, I'm creative director. I've been creative director, since about, spring of 2019, right when we moved into the new building. And so I lead the, communications, video, and design teams.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Well, thank y'all for being on the Seacoast Podcast to talk about video gaming. This episode, basically the idea was birthed with, I want to come up with a bunch of shows that are loosely connected to the summer. And for me, one thing that the summers meant in my childhood was more time for video gaming. And so I want to say I mentioned to you, Jack, and I know Gabe gave me the idea of Eric, and I want to say you brought up Adam as far as just people that would love to sit down and talk video games. So I wanted to, we'll read it for our listeners, but if you're watching on YouTube, I wanted to show you guys a slide that I think is pretty informing for this conversation. Caitlin, you can show slide 1. Check that out. Playing video games can improve mental health and life satisfaction. Isn't that awesome?
This is in the category of however much they paid for that study. I would have taken half of that and told them the same thing.
All right, so let me tell you guys my first game system. Can we see slide 2, please, Caitlin? So this is something that, do you know what that is called?
It's an Atari 2600, right?
All right, this predates the Atari 2600.
Okay.
This is something called Pong. Now, what's
just Pong?
Yes. Now, what's funny is there were no cartridges. So basically, think of a game system with no cartridges, no discs. You basically had a handful of games that basically all looked like that. On top, that is the score. And then if you notice on both sides of the screen, there is an isolated line. Those are actually players that are moving back and forth to hit that dash back and forth like tennis. That's a video game. That's what I started with. And when Christmas, I want to say 82, I wish I would have asked my brother, it was either 82 or 83 came around, we got the Atari 2600, and we were just loving it. And so I actually want to go through 3 Atari 2600 games and just see if you guys can identify. And for each of these, my guess would be maybe Eric would be the one that wouldn't, just because of how old you are. But some of these, I'm like, maybe Adam. So let's go to slide 3, please, Caitlin. Does everybody know what video game that is? Don't say it out loud. Does everybody know? You know what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Common household video game. Jack, do you know what that is?
I'd have to guess, honestly. So the 2600 is a little bit before my time. We
Gotcha.
can get into that if you want later, but
yeah.
I would have to guess. A name came to mind, but it would be a guess.
All right, let's see what your guess is.
Is that Dig Dug?
Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, yep, that's Dig Dug.
It was on the Nintendo as well. I played it at my grandfather's all the time.
Yep. All right, next one. And you knew that, Eric?
Yeah. I
Just
actually played that on like an arcade cabinet.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Right.
And this is just classic. Everybody knows this. Doesn't matter how old you are, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So if you're listening, it's a screen of Q*bert, and then the last Atari 2600. This was probably the first time I encountered video game stress, where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I cannot die. I've got to finish this game. So let's look at this next slide. My guess would be that y'all probably wouldn't know what this is, but I'm very curious, and I'll give you a hint. It's a part 2 of what I would say most people would say is one of the classic Atari 2600 games, part 1. This is part 2 of that. Any guesses? Does anybody know? You know what this is already? Eric?
I'm not familiar. No.
Not familiar?
No, I don't know.
Not familiar?
Pitfall?
Yeah, this is Pitfall 2. Pitfall 2. And it was actually the first time I ever experienced as a kid, like finishing a game. And it wasn't like, it wasn't tricky as far as, what do I do and what do I find and what key does this and that, but it was maneuvering that was tough, like the bat, and I don't know what kind of bird that is, but they moved in a certain way that you had, if you get touched, you go all the way back to the beginning, sort of thing. So but yeah, that was Atari 2600, and then I'm finishing up my video game journey. It's probably going to be a lot less passionate than y'all's, and a lot less extensive, but Nintendo was a huge deal. I remember there was a specific summer, and I'm going to have to guess 87. And we were looking forward to it because we couldn't open the Nintendo until the summer, till the last day of school. So it was like the best last day of school ever. I mean, seriously, as a kid, nothing eclipsed that summer of having a Nintendo. And this game came a little bit later. You can flip the slide. But do y'all know what version of Mario Brothers this is?
You mean what number it is?
What
That was
number?
that was my very first video game.
That's your first video game?
Yeah.
You're talking
Really?
That's a good first video game.
You're talking about the Mario that premiered on, I think the first premiere footage was on the movie The Wizard.
The Wizard,
with
yeah.
Fred Savage.
Really? Y'all, what stands out in my mind, and I played the first and the second one probably more than this one, because I graduated to the Sega Genesis pretty soon after this came out. But y'all, I'm telling you, when this game came out, I was like, I don't know if video games could ever get better than this game right here. This game. I mean, it's fun. The maneuver. Look at these graphics. I mean, have you ever seen a more realistic Italian man that's half raccoon?
Tanaki. There is a difference.
Thank you,
All
Jack.
right. This is probably my personal favorite video game of all time.
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious. Does everybody know what that is?
Of course.
Yeah.
Is it Punch Out or Super Punch?
It's
That's just regular Punch Out.
it's not regular Punch Out. It's very important what kind of Punch Out it
Is
is.
Mike Tyson's Punch
Mike
Out.
Tyson's Punch Out.
which
Did
is
you know
now
that?
which is now just called Punch Out.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what's Super Punch Out? Because
Super Punch Out is for Super Nintendo.
Yes,
It's
I got confused by the
it's the
character
follow-up.
all right, so
portraits,
here's where my old schoolness throws this for a loop. There was a Punch Out arcade version that predated Mike Tyson's Punch Out. That was and Glass Joe was one of the characters. Like some of these characters were
Okay,
reused.
so here's the question: can you guys name each of those four?
Macho
Yes.
Man,
Oh, yeah.
Soda Popinski, and I forget the
No,
Japanese
that is who'd you say, Macho Man?
Or is that Sandman?
No,
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 that's not
You're
Sandman.
right. That's not Sandman. That's Macho Man, Honda,
it's Super
Glass Joe,
Is Macho Man
and,
that is it?
and Super Popinski or Soda Popinski.
Yeah, did you say Piston Honda?
Yeah, Piston Honda. Yeah.
He said Honda, yeah.
Yeah, and Glass Joe
Glass
and
Joe and Soda Popinski.
Yeah, here's what we need to do for a bonus episode. If you guys can carve out, we need to pull up every single one of them, and all of us take a quiz and see. I'll kill it. Did y'all ever beat Mike Tyson?
No.
Oh, no.
Okay, see, I beat Mike Tyson, and what was very unfortunate is I think I was late in the game because there was a point in time where you could take a picture, send the picture to Nintendo, and get like $100 gift card or something like that. But that was probably my biggest video gaming accomplishment, was beating Mike Tyson. And then I went off to college with my Sega Genesis, and I pretty much just played sports games from that point on, and I never really kept up. So when I would go to another friend's dorm and like play the newest Maddens, I mean, I was in heaven. I just absolutely loved it. But I think once I got married, it didn't maintain that hobby status in my life. Just other things took up my time. And so it has been fun raising kids now and them getting into video games, and some of the stuff they play. What's the game where it's like they're playing soccer with cars?
Rocket League?
Rocket League. I'm like, gosh, that is a bizarre idea. But when the boys want to play Maddens or 2K basketball, I'm loving it. But I don't get into the adventure stuff personally. So that's kind of my journey. I wouldn't consider myself a gamer, but I don't think there's too many people who don't love video games. I mean, I love video games. What's not to love? All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What's your earliest memories of video games?
Oh, well, that's easy. So, earliest memory of video games was, so I would have been, and this is actually one of my earliest childhood memories too. So I would have been 5 or 6, because we were in Colorado at the time. So I would have been 5 or 6. My brother would have been 3 or 4. And I remember coming home from school, going down to the basement, and my parents had got an NES, Nintendo. And my brother was there playing it. And they just bought it. Like, no build up, no announcers, just there one day. And like, you know, it was kind of all over. You know, we just, you know, playing games is still a big part of my brother James and in my life. And
when you think about that intro, do you think Super Mario and Duck Hunt?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and also the realization that like for little boys, like Duck Hunt gets really hard, but if you press the gun against the screen, you don't have to aim. You just wait for the duck, and So that was probably my earliest. That is definitely my earliest video game memory. But like there are a ton of video game memories growing up.
All right. So this is what I did not anticipate, and that is asking guys like y'all who I think would be able to give an answer to questions that I've just never really dug. I bet you I could Google it, but I'll give you a real example. Listeners who are lightly interested in video game talk and Super Mario Brothers 1, and I know these facts, so if you push back, I'll be hesitant to concede, but in World 3-1, and now I am getting a little unsure, but I think it's at the very end of 3-1 in Super Mario Brothers, there is a mechanism at the end where you can get almost 30, 40 men just boom, boom, hitting a turtle over and over and over, and you keep getting one up. And so with video games, does the video game maker have to leak those secrets? Because we're talking in order to do that. No, well, let me, and I'll tell you why I'm asking listeners. In order to get those unlimited men, you have to time hitting that turtle shell perfectly at the perfect block at the perfect moment, and you have to maneuver it just right, and it's so tricky, and it has to be so precise you can't stumble upon it accidentally.
Well, but I think there's a difference. I'll say this real quick, and then you guys, I do think there's a difference between how they were making games then and how they're making games now. I think it's most likely that the developers didn't plan to put that in there. It's just a neat thing that someone discovered. Now,
glitch?
Yeah. Sure.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think the developers put that in there. I think that's just a neat thing people discover. Like, oh, hey, if you do this, this will happen.
All right. But there's hidden mushrooms that actually give you that.
Well, there is hidden stuff, but that's not the same thing.
Okay.
But now, because video games have such a history of people discovering stuff, now developers feel that they have to put that stuff in there.
Gotcha.
And no, they don't need to telegraph it. And you could make it impossible to find, and some streamer on Twitch will find it within 15 minutes of playing the game. So no, I think the difference is the early stuff. A lot of it was genuine, unexpected glitches, which are just so much fun to find.
Yeah.
I was actually, it's not a glitch, but it's a mechanic that they don't telegraph. I was talking with Adam and Johnny Sharp about that in a text thread last night. Just one that I remember discovering when I was, a kid. It was like, oh my gosh, if I do this, this will happen. That's super neat. And it's a game mechanic, but they don't tell you about it. It's just something I stumbled on. And what were we going to
Well, so even beyond that, you now have a community of gamers that's called the speed running community. And it's literally people who the goal is, and there's different categories like completionist, glitch, and all this. But the goal is to finish the game as fast as humanly possible. Some may even say inhumanly possible. Like, it's insanely fast. And so in doing so, sometimes they'll find glitches. Like, I don't remember the exact sequence of events, but in Super Mario 64, there's a way that if you, I don't know how people discovered this, but if you jump backwards after jumping a certain number of times and do a button combination, you'll warp through a wall, through a door, and then suddenly you're at the final fight with Bowser. And without getting any, maybe you get 1 star.
Not intentional or a glitch?
No, because, this gets into a little bit of QA testing and how QA testing works.
And I'm sorry, I may have cut off that he was going to explain that.
No.
So however y'all want to work this out.
May I?
Yeah.
I don't think we nearly have the time to get into speedrunning. I mean, in speedrunning, there's subcategories of people who call themselves glitch hunters who dedicate their time. There's people who look into source code of games now.
All right, we're totally going to have to give people a nerd warning at the beginning of this freaking episode.
So many things.
Holy cow. Y'all just took it to a nerd level.
And I don't want to get off track, but there's just so many. And I personally learned so many speedrunning tricks in Super Mario 64, like backwards long jumping is what it's called.
Yeah.
But there's just so many different things about different games where people, modern gaming communities, with how big it is, it's just a matter of time before every single game breaks with a dedicated community.
Gosh, okay. I got us off track with that question, and I'm delighted that I did so. You guys give us a quick snapshot on y'all's video gaming background, and the three of y'all would y'all consider yourselves? Yeah, I'm a gamer. If somebody said y'all a gamer, y'all would be like, yeah, I'm a gamer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, by far.
And what would does that basically mean? Because I guarantee you, there's some people who've never heard of that terminology. Does that just basically mean that video games is your hobby? Because video games is not my hobby, but I love video games.
It's one of my hobbies. It's something I like. Some people follow sports and love sports. For me, I love gaming. I love being able to jump into gaming, but it's not my only hobby. Like, I also love sailing. I love biking.
Gotcha.
I love hiking. There's other things I love doing and fill my free time with. But if I'm thinking, hey, I just want to, like last night, the kids had gone to bed. My wife was at a Bible study. I had 30 minutes to kill. First thing I thought was, do I watch a movie? No. I'm gonna try and play Ghost of Tsushima and just get a little further in that game. Yeah. So it's one of my go-to hobbies.
Yeah. Sweet. Yeah. As you were saying that, I always like to think of kind of like what gaming is to you. That's probably is sports for me. I'm huge into music, but sports is something where, like, if there was an NBA playoff game on last night, which there wasn't, and I was like, oh, shoot. But that would be I got 30 minutes, and then I'll go to bed. Let me just catch up on this game sort of thing. So, yeah, sports would be kind of, all right, continue.
So my first gaming memory is my grandmother passed away when I was like 6 months old, and I remember my grandfather...
I know you're going to bum us out, dude. I know you're going to bum us out.
I'm sorry. I barely know her. But,
okay, move on.
But I've lived through her cooking. She was an amazing Italian chef. But anyways, not to digress. So afterwards, my grandfather, we noticed he was getting a little sad, and the Nintendo had come out a couple of years before, and we're like, you know what, let's go ahead and get him a Nintendo.
You've got to be kidding me. This is so awesome.
Apparently that was a spousal replacement. And so we got it for him, and this is great, man.
Yeah. Gosh. You being on this podcast is worth this story alone, man.
I am never being invited back. So he just got into gaming, and this is before the internet. This is before player's guides and everything. And so I remember he would play The Legend of Zelda, and he had notebooks where he'd map out like every map of every level, where all the secrets were. And back in those days, you'd play a game over and over and over and over again, as opposed to these days where you play it once and then move on to another game. And I remember when I was in kindergarten, I apparently wasn't a great student because I failed the left-right test, 50-50 chance, and it's wrong. And he had heard about that, and he was visiting us, and he brought his Nintendo. So he decided he was going to help out. So he started playing Zelda, and he's like, all right, you're going to tell me where to go. He's like, should I go left or right? And I said, go left. And then he'd go left. And enough times doing that, it probably didn't take very long, but enough times doing that, it clicked with me like, oh, left is that way, right is that way. And I remember learning left and right. And then after we saw how much he utterly loved his Nintendo, we ended up getting one for our family. But the kicker was I wasn't allowed to play it until I turned 6 or a little older. And I remember when finally...
Just because they knew you would love it so much?
I don't know if it was that or if it was just like expensive electronic.
Gotcha.
Hey, let's... Okay. And so, like, I remember the day I was finally allowed to play it, I played Mario, and I started playing, and my parents looked at it, like, I was doing phenomenally well, and my parents were looking like, have you been playing this secretly? I'm like, no, I've seriously never played this, and it just turned out I was really good at video games. And so, like, with those experiences and just jumping into it, it just became something that I resonated with and just utterly loved.
Nice.
What is your daughter's name, Adam?
My firstborn daughter is named Zelda, and brief aside, when we were in the...
is there a popular video game name called Zelda? The Legend of?
Yeah, like something like that.
Yeah. Is that coincidental, or is that...
No, so my wife was a teacher, and we were trying to come up with a name, and every name, she's like, no, I had a student name to that. And it started to get a little frustrating, so I just started saying like random things. Like I remember one time at dinner, I was like, what if we name her Salt? Just random things. And one day I was playing Zelda, and I jokingly said, what if we named her Zelda? And we both, and she's like, no. And I internally was like, no. And then both of us were like, actually. And so, long story short, she's Zelda.
And your son is Cubert.
Well, funny enough, you would ask that. When we were in the delivery room for Zelda, for any expecting parents, I would say one tip that was given to me that was helpful is it can be a long process. And so, pack the mom bag. Number 1 priority, number 2 priority. Number 3 priority is bring something, a book or a game, maybe, for the father, only for if the mom sleeps. Anyways,
or in the delivery room.
What?
I mean, or in the delivery room. Who's to say?
I mean, it literally was in the delivery room. But my wife had her epidural. She's sleeping. So I was like, I think it's safe. And so I pulled out my PlayStation Vita, and I'm playing through Final Fantasy. And the main character of that game is named Titus, but a lot of people call him Titus. And as we're playing, I was like, I kind of like the name Titus. And we knew we were having a girl. And so when my wife woke up, I said, hey, how would you feel about the name Titus if we ever have a son? And she goes, oh, yeah, like the book of the Bible. To which I was like, yes. That's 100%
that
what I was.
One.
That's what I.
You're correct. That's what I was thinking.
We're on the same page of this one. Turned off the game. And then later told her. So long story short, my My son is named Titus.
Did you tell her before or after you named your son Titus?
It was before. It was the same day. But, I came clean pretty quickly. But there was an initial where I was like, yes, we both work at a church. That's certainly what I was thinking.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Another question that I didn't think to ask. Do you guys like or respect the movie Wreck-It Ralph? Do y'all like that movie?
I enjoyed it.
I love
It was fun.
It honors
it just-
gaming well. Like when I saw Q*bert, I was like, oh yeah.
I just
You
thought
make
it
some
did,
different crap.
especially the first one. I just thought it was the neatest concept. You were just kind of on the fence. Did you?
I watched it as a kid. It wasn't
Yeah.
my favorite movie, but I can definitely respect it now.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Well, I just don't really do the whole like that's a brand I like. I'm excited by that. I just maybe it's just because like everything is so saturated.
Okay,
in
it's
references and callbacks.
I feel like it's not as offensive as some modern gaming movies with some of that, because now a lot of the market is just references.
yeah,
Yeah.
They
right.
have those, but it's not as in your
Yeah.
face as
Yeah.
some
Right.
new ones.
All right, scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best computer animated
minute,
movie of all time.
Wait a minute. Wait, this is because I still want to hear Eric's earliest
too.
gaming memory. Okay,
Me
I just
too.
want to make sure sometimes
too.
you forget things.
Yeah,
you are
you're
47.
right. I appreciate it. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being
Yeah.
the greatest animated movie of all time, where does Wreck-It Ralph go? Around.
like a
Greatest
2?
animated movie of
two?
all time?
It's
Or
fine.
the greatest
Yeah, if you're
video
like
game
asking me to
animated
compare it to like the greatest animated movies of all time, it's a 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine, but there's so many incredible animated films.
Dang,
Like
man.
it's thoroughly enjoyable. I'd happily see it again, mainly because I enjoyed John C. Reilly and just he has an
Yeah, kind of like I'd eat
entertaining voice.
Doritos again.
But in terms of like, if you're putting on a scale of animated movies of all time, not even just CGI movies, just
All right,
well.
it's
It's down there.
of the movies.
I'm
it is
sorry
one of
that
them.
Wreck-It Ralph really excited me. All right, Eric.
Yes.
So Eric, the youngster of the crowd, I gotta know what's your earliest gaming system memory, and then you can just take this wherever you want to.
Well, my earliest video game memory, as I kind of alluded to, was after church every other week at Seacoast, we would go to my grandparents' house, and they had a Nintendo Entertainment System. So me and my brother, we would take turns. Each we had either 5 minutes or one life or whatever it was, sharing the controller and playing Super Mario Brothers 3, the original Super Mario Brothers, and Duck Hunt. Mainly just those three because those were our favorites. And once we were older,
So this system would have had to have been how old at the time now?
probably 20 years.
Yeah.
1985. So
Yeah.
it was already 20 years old. Still working. Like, Grandpa had to come in and blow on it from time to time.
Yeah, squeeze.
Because it wouldn't work. But once we were old enough, like a lot of Gen Z, we got our own Nintendo DS and Nintendo Wii for the house. So we grew up on all of those old Nintendo, now old, I guess, Nintendo games on the Wii. Lots of Mario. I didn't really get into Zelda until I was a little bit older, but just some of my most fond memories are trying to beat like new Super Mario Brothers Wii with my brother, playing co-op and constantly throwing each other off cliffs, but eventually we would beat it and things like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Sweet. Metroid. Did y'all ever play Metroid?
Oh yeah.
later
Yeah.
on,
Oh yeah. Yes. Sorry. I've been in anticipation.
On the original Nintendo or where? Okay. Yeah.
So
my brother was really big into Metroid.
I never did the
I don't
original
think
Metroid.
I don't think I wanted to think
played
too hard playing
Super
video
Metroid.
games.
Super Metroid
was
is
a really
Super
great
Metroid
game.
is the best.
Yeah, Super Metroid is it's hard to say like top 10 game, but it's definitely top 10 of the Super Nintendo era.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
it's
Easily.
Yeah.
I would say easily in the top 100 of all time games.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think these lists would probably overlap, but y'all tell me if you and were you finished kind of with your snapshot narrative?
kinda.
Okay, cool. And there's more time to talk, but when you think of even just one video game that maybe the common person wouldn't think about, that you would say, oh yeah, for sure one of the best video games of all time. And does that overlap? If it doesn't overlap with some of your favorites, where you're just like, oh, by far my favorite, or here's some of my favorites. They may not overlap. If they don't, I want to hear both lists. Which video games that you think are some of the best of all time, even in their era, so if you're like, man, in the 80s, I know the graphics sucked, but it was an unbelievable game. So your favorite and what you think are some of the best of all time.
So my all-time favorite game is easily going to be Secret of Mana. and which, funny enough, like I've played that game. I've probably gotten halfway through it. I don't know. I'm not exaggerating when I say about 50 times. Like,
and I don't know
Super Nintendo
anything about that. I mean, give me a snapshot.
It's an RPG, but it's more like an action RPG, but Super Nintendo era. So RPGs are role-playing games.
Oh, that's right. I was thinking
what kind of RPG is it?
I was thinking
JRPG.
So
many subcategories of RPG.
It's a Japanese.
The whole game, you're firing missiles.
No, you were running around with a mana sword that you found in a rock from a ghost who's helping you to go restore the mana tree. But anyways, that's
I would assume big time game. A lot of people, if you're a gamer, you've heard of this.
It's definitely it's on a lot of people's lists of all-time top games. And it's one of those series that they keep bringing back, hoping to recapture the Super Nintendo glory, and they bring a little nostalgia. But it's one of those games that, funny enough, in spite of the fact that 50 times I've started it, it wasn't until because I talked to Jack about it 8 months ago that I finally, for the first time in my life, defeated the Mana Beast. Such a spoiler for those that didn't get to the end boss, for those that were really wondering who the final boss is. And
you alerted people afterwards.
I'm sorry.
So
we can edit that. but yeah, so it's just there's something about that game. The music is amazing, the gameplay is amazing, the glitches, like the way that you can defeat people by just spamming or just like continually firing some of your magic effects, and like you'll get to this huge boss that's supposed to be incredibly hard to beat, and then you just hit a button repeated and suddenly he's done.
Yeah.
And like, it's just, there's something about that game that is so good.
The music helps a ton.
Yes. In fact, when my kids were born, there was someone who made a lullaby version of a bunch of the songs from it, and that was their lullabies going to bed.
That's cool.
So peaceful. You
That's
really
cool.
could just not do a lullaby version.
I would listen to that. I'm not even joking.
I still have the playlist on my phone.
Most of my Spotify playlist is video game soundtracks.
That's cool. Can you send me a playlist? I would love to hear.
Yes.
And you're listening to it to relax or for enjoyment or
for enjoyment for work.
Yeah.
So one of the things, there's actually an article about this years ago. It's actually a really good observation. Video game music is actually really good to work to, and the reason is because video game music is now more modern video game music. They're honestly more closer to movie soundtracks or symphonies, but when you get into the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, you're dealing with limited capacity on cartridges, which means you're limited in terms of what the music can sound like, how much room it can take up, and obviously how long it can be. And so video game music has to loop, and it has to loop in a way that you don't notice. And it has to accompany you doing repetitive tasks. So video game music started out as a genre that has to loop pretty regularly, accompany you while you solve puzzles, and not be super noticeable while being enjoyable, which makes it the perfect work music. No joke.
Never thought about it.
So it's actually, anyway. So, but yeah, I'll make you a playlist.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd be super interested. All right, did you get a chance to go off on? I know what your favorite, and if you said what you think are some of the best, forgive me, because
if you were making a top list, some of these are my favorites too. Like, I think Metal Gear Solid's on there.
Oh, that's a good one.
Well,
now, so
what is that? I don't know these names. Like,
the way you're answering, because it's the way I'm going to answer too, is I'm probably going to talk more franchises than specific games.
Because if Secret of Mana is my all-time favorite game, but then if you were to go beyond just a game, like I would say the Metal Gear Solid franchise as a whole, for the most part, is one of my all-time favorites. And this is very complicated. The next one, Final Fantasy, is by far one of my favorites. But we could do an entire podcast breaking that down of, some people prefer 6, while other people prefer 10, or
those people are wrong.
Yeah.
And so, and I think both of those series, games within those series, if not multiple games in those series, are going to fall on all-time top games lists.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to have to do a part 2 because there's so many different directions that I want to go into.
It's just so hard to pinpoint a favorite game because, video games, and we can get into this too, are an art form. Like, there's so many different genres and styles and ages. So it's hard to pinpoint one, but, the most nostalgic game for me is by far Super Mario Galaxy on the Nintendo Wii. Super Mario, that's probably the most recognized game franchise. but if not the most popular. But it has an full orchestral soundtrack, the first one of its kind, and I just grew up with it. So it's. I mean, that one and its sequel are amazing for me. But also,
Are you laughing at him?
Well, I was going to say, because I knew it's like, so Super Mario Galaxy is a really nostalgic game for me too, because I played a lot during the first year of my marriage. But it's equivalent experiences.
Well, we were talking beforehand.
It's fine. I'm not old. It's fine.
It's fun.
Well, we were talking beforehand, and he was saying how the first Zeldas you had played were on the.
Oh, yeah.
You were playing them on the Wii U when you were, I think, like 13. I was like, oh yes, and I certainly wasn't playing those games on the Wii U while I was working here.
But you know what? One thing I'll say is one of the reasons that Mario is, to me, Mario is the greatest video game franchise, and it's really not a competition. But one of the reasons is it's like, so, Super Mario Brothers was my first video game, period. And it's still a great game. I still play it with my boys.
The original?
Yeah. Yep. And they like it. And it was, Super Mario 3 was your first game. And like, you are, again, literally half my age, but you loved that game. And one of the things that Nintendo has always really understood is games are supposed to be fun.
Gameplay,
and a lot of franchises and studios try to make something awesome or epic or that will sell really well, and they're just not fun. They're messes, and they're just terrible. But Nintendo, Nintendo has a lot of challenges, particularly with like hardware, but they always overcome them because they understand that games are supposed to be fun and a delight. Like, so a couple years ago, I was at a video game convention, PAX, and the newest Super Mario game, Super Mario Wonder, hadn't been released yet, but I was able to go. Nintendo had an expo, their annual expo, right next door, and I actually got a pass to go in there for a day. And so I was playing Super Mario Wonder with 3 complete strangers for half an hour, and we're having the best time. I've never seen these people before. I'll never see them again. But we were having a ton of fun because that Nintendo knows how to make fun games.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's interesting because like my family, I've, for better or worse, am raising a family of gamers, and my kids. Well, one of my kids loves playing on the Switch. The other 2 love either playing Xbox or Switch. But anytime we play a video game as a family, we always pull out the Switch and we're playing Mario Kart or we're playing Super Mario Wonder. And before the podcast, we were talking about like getting systems, or maybe it was during, but earlier we were talking about the idea of getting video game systems for Christmas or the last day of school. And my kids are counting down to the last day of school, but also in our house, there's a digital countdown on a little screen that's counting down to like 5 days after the last day of school, because that's when the Switch 2 is coming out. And so like their eyes are locked into, hey, when school ends, like 5 days later, we're all going to, at midnight, go to GameStop together and pick up the Switch 2, which...
Is your bank account ready for Switch 2?
It's already paid off.
Okay. You pre-ordered it.
I did. I may have...
Adam is an early adopter.
How much is the Switch 2?
$450 for the console, I believe, and it's $80 a game.
A game!
You may or may not.
Okay, make a note. This is good for a follow-up episode, the price of games, because to me, everyone's complaining about $80 games. Games should have been $80 years ago. The price of games stayed artificially stable for like 2 decades, and it was really, actually, to my mind, not a good thing.
But some of these games were so basic with Atari, for instance.
No, I'm talking really the last 25 years.
Gotcha.
Where games have basically been, like adjusting for inflation, basically been $50 to $60 for 25 years.
Yeah.
And, I mean, what else have you been buying for the last 25 years that has not changed in price?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask y'all this, and I'm trying to remember, did I cut anybody off? Were you...
Well, the only thing I was going to say in response to this question of have you paid it off or not, you can include this or not include this depending on if it works, but...
My children all have part-time jobs.
No, I had the opportunity recently to run camera for a certain Christian artist's record release party, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do it. I was like, wait, I'm going to get paid the same amount as what the Switch 2 is going to cost. And so I said yes.
That's a sign?
So no, not a sign, just a, hey, thanks God. Now I can just go ahead and pay for that. And,
Yeah.
So, I worked another event solely to pay for it.
I do want to answer the question of favorite game. and great franchises, unless you want to do something else.
No. I want everybody to get this out on the table. I mean, we may need to do a part 2 because I think one of y'all has a heart out at 11, and we haven't even gotten to like moral stuff. We just been talking about fun stuff.
So, favorite game of all time is the easiest question in the world for me. It's Final Fantasy VI, which was released in the States as Final Fantasy III. Because not all the Final Fantasies were released in the States, and so they kind of messed with the number.
Final Fantasy is not Final Destination horror movie.
No, so the fun story about Final Fantasy is basically studio is going to go under, so they make one more game, knowing it'll be their last. They call it Final Fantasy, and it saves the studio. And
is that part of the video game legend?
No,
that's
that's what happened.
Oh, gotcha.
And
I was
now,
like, wow, that's a creative video game idea,
right? And so there have been 16 numbered releases and innumerable spin-offs and all that stuff.
Is this like a space game?
No. So, okay.
Well,
no, it's
sometimes, but not.
Sometimes. Each Final Fantasy game has its own complete story, unique story and setting. And so sometimes it'll lean heavily into steampunk stuff. Sometimes it'll lean into medieval settings. And so it
completely unrelated.
Yeah, so there are elaborate theories you can find on the internet that connect them all, but they're not.
This
connected.
is the kind of stuff that I just love hearing about because I'd never know that. Of course, I've heard of that video game. I don't know anything about it. You know?
So Final Fantasy VI is easily my favorite game of all time. It's also
is that the most recent?
No. This 6 came out in 1996.
Y'all are like, did he stop it?
Maybe 94. I cannot remember if Final Fantasy VI came out in 94 or 96, but it doesn't matter. But like I said, it's like, even though it is my favorite game of all time, it is also genuinely on the list of, games that you could make the case for greatest game of all time. Ever made of any system.
Yeah.
There's a lot of greatest games of all time.
Yeah, but among the ones that would be on that list in the running, like 6 would be in anyone's bracket.
Yeah.
So, but in terms of franchises, I would say like, Final Fantasy, but Legend of Zelda. Some more recent ones would be like Persona, Red Dead Redemption, Elder Scrolls, Fallout. These are all more modern franchises, but like in some of the games within those franchises, I would argue could be on that, greatest games of all time, like Persona 5, Red Dead Redemption 2. Those two are in my probably top 5 of all time. And those are more modern games. I'm actually replaying Persona 5 right now. But there are a ton of franchises that are, and I'm going to be so mad that I'm forgetting some, but yeah.
Yeah, you will be for sure. And there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah. Did you fully unpack this question?
There's so much more to unpack, but
yeah.
Let's get a move.
Yep. For sure. Yeah, I really am curious about this. So when it comes to a movie connoisseur, music, people can make a case for, oh man, the 1950s music, or my brother was saying how 1970s best movie era. With video games, how would most gamers, in your opinion, answer this? Or maybe you'd be like, be all over the board. Maybe this is the dumbest question ever, but there's nobody that's going to make a case for Dig Dug being the best video game of all time, because everybody would say when it comes to game handling, that's a different kind of art, and it's just advanced so much. Nobody in their right mind is going to say, oh man, the original Pac-Man on Atari 2600, just the handling and the graphics and the storyline. It's just, nobody's going to say that. Or are there people that are just like, no, dude, the first Super Mario Brothers may be conceptually one of the most creative ideas of all time.
Yes. I was just going to say, so in terms of greatest game of all time, it's difficult. Because it's changed so much. But just like with movies, I think one thing is you have to look at is, you have to look at cultural impact. You have to look at the quality of the film itself. But one thing is you also have to look at is, do people still watch it? Because if no one watches it anymore, then you can make the argument. Then it's the argument for it being one of the greatest films of all time really rests on how influential it is for other filmmakers, which is fine, but it's going to be harder to make that case. And it's really the same thing for video games. So no, you could make a case that Pac-Man is one of the greatest games ever made because people still play it all the time, every day, everywhere.
Yeah.
And they have fun doing it. So I think with games, it's the same way. It's like the merits of the game itself, how impactful was it, as a game, and do people still play and enjoy it? I think that's, roughly the same thing as for games as for movies.
Yeah.
Jack and I were having a conversation about Final Fantasy games recently, and back in like 2018 to 2020, I decided I had the personal goal. I wanted to play through every numbered Final Fantasy game with the exception of one of the online-only games that's terrible.
Talking about 11.
Yes, to Final Fantasy 11, because you're talking about hundreds of hours on a game that does not hold up. And so in that goal, I'm playing games all the way back from the original Nintendo all the way up until like I've now been keeping up with them on release, and so all the way up to PlayStation 5 games. And the ones that stuck out the most, like there's a couple more modern ones, but the main ones that stuck out were the I would say Super Nintendo through PlayStation era, and then there's like one or two on the PlayStation 2 that really stick out as like the best games. There's a ton of great games that are so much fun, but story-wise and like nostalgia-wise, Final Fantasy 6, Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, and for me personally 10, which is where 10 came from. Like all of those ones, even though they're not modern, all hold up incredibly well. And I think all of those could easily find a place on top games of all time list, partially because of how they've influenced modern day games. In fact, we were talking about another game that was created recently that came out that kind of took the video game world by surprise in terms of the number of people that are excited about it and playing it. And this game is heavily, heavily influenced by, what was it, Final Fantasy 9?
The director is, he says his favorite Final Fantasy game is 8, which is my second favorite Final Fantasy game, but it's also probably the most divisive Final Fantasy. People hate that game.
Yeah.
And people love that game. And the fact that it's his favorite, I'm like, oh, you were a very specific kind of video game player. But he decided, and I'm talking about Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and he decided to make it because he was bored at Ubisoft, which is, one of those behemoth video game makers that just churns out Assassin's Creed games, which are all mediocre. But like Doritos, I will play the next one. But he was just bored. And he's like, I want to make the kind of game that I love, that made me want to do this job. And so he and a bunch of people he found on the internet made this game, which sold 1 million copies in 3 days and is going to probably win Game of the Year, by everyone's estimation.
Like the guy who makes the music is just someone who's never made video game music before. I just, what was it, on SoundCloud, I think they found him. Well, and this music is phenomenal.
Yeah, their creative director, I think the creative director was someone he found on Reddit to be a voice actress.
Oh yeah.
And she just became the creative director. And so it's a crazy story, but anyway.
But it's a game that only exists because of the impact of the PlayStation era games, which, we're talking back when I was in high school. Like these are old games.
Hold up, just like Super Mario 3 and Galaxy still hold up. So there's a podcast called Dev Game Club, and it's these two veteran video game developers who basically play through old school games and comment on them. And ideally, it's a game that only one of them has played or neither of them has played. And I remember when they played through Final Fantasy 9, that's when the podcast really got popular because they loved playing Final Fantasy 9, which came out in 2000. And I remember one of the comments one of them made doing that podcast was, I don't think I could ever play Final Fantasy 6. I just don't feel like I could make it through that. I don't feel like it would hold up. And then a few years later, they did Final Fantasy 6. And that same guy was just like, fell in love with it and could not stop talking about what an unbelievable game it was from a storytelling perspective and all the things they were doing. And that was like, to me, I really loved hearing that. Because again, it was like your friend discovering and falling in love with something that meant a lot to you.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they also tell emotional stories in spite of the fact that like visually the graphics they're not realistic or anything. I won't spoil the moment, but there's a moment in Final Fantasy 7, which if you look at the graphics, it's funny, if you talk to people who've played it, they imagine the graphics look so much better, but then you play the game, they look terrible.
Yeah.
But there's this moment in that game that is still to this day a incredibly powerful, like heart-wrenching moment that just it doesn't matter even if you've seen it before. Like when you hit that point in that game, it hits hard. And you look at these graphics, they're terrible, but they're still able to tell this amazingly emotional story that still gets at the heart of like just impacting people.
That's something
Adam's talking about when Cloud goes to the Honeybee Inn.
No. No, that's the scene I wish you could skip.
I really love what you just said because it made me realize that I don't think I've ever had a moment like that because I think you have to kind of be Jack's going to jump all over this one. You have to have kind of more advanced type thinking to connect at that level like you have to be an adult minded person. And I just never played video games well into my adulthood, but I never obviously movie, music, books, all sorts of things have moved me. I've never thought of a video game. That's kind of neat to think about. So there's been times where you've been playing a video game. You're like, man, this is powerful. This has got me choked up.
Absolutely.
Many
There's so
times.
many games.
Yeah, see, that's a new concept.
What's one for you?
Are you agreeing here too?
Oh, I'll say this real quick, but I want to hear from Eric. I keep bringing up Final Fantasy VI. So Final Fantasy VI is actually one that a lot of people will bring up as a moment where I didn't realize games could tell stories that way. And it would be interesting, like how many game developers decided that's what they wanted to do because of games like Final Fantasy VI, or literally because of Final Fantasy VI. Because that's what Final Fantasy VI was the first game. Walking around the basement, I liked watching my brother play games because he was better at them than me. Final Fantasy VI was the first game that I really played for myself, and it was so many parts of it. It was a really formative experience for me playing games. But Eric, what?
So for me, I didn't really grow up with Final Fantasy, mostly Nintendo. But once I got old enough, I started playing a lot of indie games. So indie developers oftentimes were just one person making a full video game. Oftentimes they outsell even the biggest companies.
Did you say indie games?
Yeah.
See, I didn't know there was a concept.
Yep.
But single
Can you buy
developers
indie
or a
games
small
at like
team,
Best Buy, for instance? I'm serious.
Yes.
a lot of the popular ones, yes,
Okay.
but most of them, they're on the main store pages for PC.
Do a whole episode on Stardew Valley. That'll blow your mind
That's
right there.
one of my favorite games. So,
Minecraft
so
started
many
this
of
way.
these indie games, it's just this one person or this small group of people who are intimate with themselves or with each other, and they make these wonderful stories. Like Stardew Valley is an amazing farming simulator with stories of people in the game. But there's also games like Celeste or Hollow Knight or just so many. Like indie games are so incredible because they just feel so intimate. It's like the creator is talking to you through the game, or the music, or the story, or the gameplay, because they just committed their whole existence in a matter of years to creating this game. That's what I like most about the modern gaming market, because you would think over time, with more people and bigger companies, games would get better and better and better, which for the long run they have, because they've given everyone these resources to make amazing games.
Yeah.
This is really eye-opening. Is video games? Are you guys? And I'm not saying this in a minimizing at the very least. I'm not saying it in a ridiculing way. Would you all say there's an emotional connection to video games, or maybe a game that you're currently invested in? Just like if I'm watching a long movie that I'm really enjoying, I'm emotionally invested.
If you're popular games right now,
Earlier I mentioned I'm playing through Ghost of Tsushima. Sorry, did I?
Yeah.
Playing through Ghost of Tsushima, and like the story of that game is just so good.
Well, one of the most popular shows of the last few years, maybe the most popular show right now because it's mid-season, is The Last of Us. The Last of Us is based on a video game, and with some exceptions. I haven't watched the second season.
So good.
I'm not going to watch the second season because I didn't play the second game. That's a whole other deal. But the first game is one of my favorite games of all time, and in the first 10 minutes of The Last of Us, I remember the opening scene concluded. I put the controller down and I said, okay, so that's how it's going to be. And I just kind of had to sit there for a few minutes. And I think Jack had just been born. And, that's a difficult game to play as a parent. And the show is basically, in some cases, shot for shot the game. And they made some changes from the game, some understandable, some not great. But the show is basically the game. And people had enormous emotional resonance with the show. And I see no reason why you can't have the same emotional resonance with storytelling and other mediums as well. People think video games are silly, and that's fine. Some games are silly. Super Mario is a fundamentally silly concept and silly game. Great. Not all games are that way. And video games is a perfectly legitimate storytelling method, and it can be a very, very powerful one. Because it can be more engaged. It has the potential, when done right, to be more engaging than other forms of media.
Yeah, because you feel like you're playing a role in the storytelling. You're not just passively experiencing it. Some games will give you a choice where, like, do you want to do this or this? And it has an overall impact on the end story. But sometimes it's just forcing you to make a decision in the game, even though, without, once again, spoiling this moment of BioShock, there's this moment where there's this huge turn in the story, and you have to push a button for it to happen. You don't have a choice. If you want to keep playing the game, you have to push this button. Otherwise, game over. But like by pushing this button, you're causing this story moment to happen. And without, like, you could do an entire podcast on this game alone, but like the moment that they've crafted there with you taking part in it with the overall narrative is incredibly powerful and incredibly it hits home.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Here's what we're going to do is I would guess y'all would be interested in this, but I know at least two of y'all will. Let's do a part 2 for our patrons because I didn't even get to the whole debate that I'm sure some of it is backed as far as video game stuff causing behavior, like influencing behavior. Extreme games like Grand Theft Auto. We didn't talk about what I see with my boys gaming as there's no isolation anymore. Like I remember back in the day, people would be like, man, my kid's locked up in his room and not talking to anybody, doesn't know the people that he's chatting with. My boys are playing video games with their best friends at school, talking to them, video with it. So either you say, well, technology is stupid, or they're not isolated. They're playing with their friends. It's just in a digital way. Didn't get to that. I wanted to get into the risks that you guys see as far as technological advances and just how games can be more addictive. But what will close in this episode is, do you feel like you have to mitigate personally against video games becoming an addiction for you? Like, is it something that you have to kind of keep a pulse on?
So, no. So part of my deal is I've always had a rule, and it's not quite the same now. It really depends on what I'm playing. But when the boys were little, I just had a rule that I'm not going to play video games while they're conscious. And just because for me it was, I don't really want them seeing my attention locked in on something and ignoring everything around me. And that was just a choice I made. And so now, they're 11 and 8, and so sometimes we'll play games together. They're finding games that they enjoy. If I'm playing a game that I think they would find interesting and that I think is okay for them to watch, sometimes they'll say, "Hey, do you guys want to watch you play a little bit of whatever it might be?" But for me, it's not hard to mitigate, just because for me, it's like I have other things that are just more important to do. And so my game playing tends to be at night when everyone else is in bed, and I'll play for half an hour, and that's it. And so it's not especially hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Weekends, you splurge a little bit more?
No, I'll tell you, I took a day off a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do something I haven't done in like 20 years. And that is, I'm just going to play games for like 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
And I did. And it was fun. And I've got no interest in doing that again for a long time. It's just, part of it's like, I can't do that the way I used to. My head hurts. My eyes get tired. I'm old, Eric. It's going to happen to you. Don't look at me that way.
Yeah. Video games isn't always going to be great, Buster.
So part of it's just a stage of life thing. But it's like, I've got responsibilities. I need to get things done. And video games are a hobby.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you? Do you find yourself being like, I gotta keep a watch on this?
Yeah. Especially for, a lot of my generation growing up with games, I mean, a lot of games are innately designed to keep you on the screen for as long as possible. Infinite gameplay loops and or long stories that, like some story games, if you just play for half an hour, you're not going to get any substance because you need to play for a certain amount of time for events to happen. But even in high school, early college, like I find myself struggling to focus on what matters and do those things. So there's been a lot of personal restriction or just time with games when I only really have free time on the weekends or things like that, because it's hard to put them down.
Yeah.
Just innately. Because I am young. I have good eyes and can sit at a screen for 4 hours straight, you know?
I can still interact with these things at full capacity, Jack. It's hard to stop playing these things. Oh, man. What about you?
When I was younger, it was by far a bigger thing. I remember once I got grounded because I refused to go out and play with my friend. Instead, I wanted to stay in their living room and play their Nintendo.
Yeah.
While she went outside and played. And so, like, it consumed my life probably all through college. Like, I remember Civilization 2, far too many hours put into that. And Halo, my claim to fame was, I think it was on the, like, 2v2 board on Halo 2. My friend and I were in the top 100 for a season. So, you know, you probably have heard of me. But, like, back in those days, it was much more of an addiction, I'd say.
Yeah.
But there was something that happened when I graduated and went out and actually got a job and realized, hey, there's more to life. Because I started to fall off and not play games anywhere near as much as I used to. And then it wasn't till I started working here, actually with Jack. So I blame you that I'm playing them.
I accept responsibility.
But even then, like, I don't play them anywhere.
You were
near
like,
as much as I used
Jack's
to.
a godly man. He plays a lot of video games.
I think it was
Is that
like-
how you connected the dots?
I think it was more like, hey, I finally have someone to geek out with this because my wife doesn't
That's
play
true.
games.
That does matter.
And when you have someone to geek out with, like, that immediately will kind of throw you back in.
Yeah.
But even then, it's so much easier to manage now because, like Jack was saying, I have other responsibilities. Like, I have to work to provide for my family. I have to spend time with my family. Like, they like me and I like them. And so, yeah, we do some gaming together, but it's easier to kind of put it on the back burner and just say, hey, I'm going to go play 30 minutes here, or if I'm splurging, 2 hours here, as opposed to what I used to do.
Yeah.
So it can easily be an addiction, but I think once you are able to kind of weigh the priorities, it's easier to kind of put it to the side where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I can
Yeah, that makes sense.
manage this.
Do all you gamers know what the highest grossing video game is? Is that something that you guys all know? Like,
Highest
well,
grossing
of course,
is
it's
tricky.
Such and such.
Are we talking like individual game or franchise?
Well, I'll just
And even then, I
say,
don't know
I'll
that
just say, at a glance, it's Minecraft.
That's the highest
It's on-
sales.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, that's
but
not
this-
the same thing.
And I'll just say, I think it's astonishing the disconnect. I couldn't tell you one thing about Minecraft other than I think Jack Black is in the movie, and it has something to do with like building blocks.
So that's
Like seriously, that's all I know about Minecraft.
of the
If
games.
you're a gamer, you know conceptually what Minecraft is about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of the games my kids play, that's probably the most played game. And it's funny, it doesn't matter that I've played games almost my entire life. For some reason, I couldn't for the life of me grasp how to open a door versus breaking a door. And so, like, every time Dad would play the game, they'd be like, hey, just open the doors for him because he's just going to break your door. And it wasn't until literally this week that I finally grasped, I was like, oh, this is the action button in this game, and this is the destroy button. And so, like, we spent probably an hour earlier this week, and we just started to build a world, built a house and everything. And so, like, that's slowly becoming a family game that we play together.
Yeah.
But
Is it a big time game because it's good? Like it's a good game?
Yeah.
I've never played Minecraft. We have it. Jack played a little bit of it, but he kind of bounced off it. May not be the right time for him to get into it, and so I've got no opinions on Minecraft.
Yeah.
it is pretty fun. Like the creativity I see in my son. Like it's one of those games that I don't mind my kids playing a little more of because it's essentially them playing with Legos without having to like have Legos on the floor that I step on. And like the one day I came in and my son's like, hey, look at this roller coaster I built. And he had built, he's not watching videos how to do this, but he just had built a working roller coaster. He's like, oh yeah, if I stand here, I hit that switch and then there's motors all throughout it and everything. And the game doesn't say, like, here's how to build a motor, here's how to build, like, he figured out all these mechanisms, how to make this track go, how to make sure you had enough momentum in all the right spots, how to make lights go and everything. And he's young, and I can't think of his age on the spot all of a sudden. He's 7.
Yeah.
And this was like when he was 6 years old, he's building these things. Like, okay, it's pushing his creativity and getting him to do things that, and basically problem solve at a level that he wouldn't actually have not playing it.
Yeah.
All right, I have to force myself for this to be the last question. Do y'all all know what up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, start is? Everybody knows what that is?
Yep.
Okay, sweet. Thank you, guys.
You've been watching Seacoast Church's Things You Won't Hear on Sunday podcast. You can now become a patron of this podcast and receive exclusive content. Your support goes towards Seacoast ministry efforts and local presence. Also, be sure to leave us a review and subscribe to this podcast so that you get these episodes as soon as they're released. All of this information can be found in the show notes. Thanks for watching.